Hello and welcome to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I'm happy to welcome back Megan Fox, who I believe we had over last time for your Believe Evidence book, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yes, I believe we did. That was a while ago.
Oh, yeah, years. And how far we've come. Um,
True.
we have you over today to discuss something near and dear to my heart, and by that I mean I live right in the middle of it, just a few miles from the town center.
Mm.
Corruption in the St. Louis system, um, which is a fun subject that any St. Louisan will proudly and loudly talk about, um, because it's fun and it cuts the boredom and stuff like that. But this has to do with corrupt judges and the exploitation of children, which, I don't want to get too many serious topics on this stream or make it a serious stream, but it is so extreme and so strange that I thought it deserves to be discussed. Megan, will you take us away?
Sure. I didn't intend to uncover, the squirming bunch of maggots that are underneath the rock that is the St. Louis judiciary, but that's what happened. You lift up one rock and it's just a mess under there. And unfortunately, I was given some leaked audio from inside a courtroom, from Judge Nicole Zellweger's courtroom, of a 14-year-old pleading with the judge to not send her back to her father because she claimed that he molested her while she was visiting him. This is a man who I've now found out was not in her life at all until she was a teenager and just kind of showed up one day and said he wanted to be a dad, and her mother was accommodating and said, "Okay, we'll share custody." And that's great. You want to be a part of her life. But the very first time she went and spent several months with him, she came back saying he molested her. And her
Ugh.
mother refused to send her back to him. And because she was in violation of their court ordered custody agreement, the judge held her in contempt, brought them back to court. And that was the court hearing that was leaked to press, to Michael Volpe out of Chicago. And I got it from him and I published it. And what's really sad about it is that this judge is telling this girl who's trying to disclose to her that she's been abused in some way. The judge keeps saying there's no evidence of that without calling an evidentiary hearing, without hearing what evidence there is, without even taking the word of the 14-year-old as evidence, which when you're a victim of a crime where you're the only witness, that is evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it's just you and a perpetrator, you're supposed to be able to say, this happened to me. And we're not talking about criminally prosecuting this person. We're talking about not forcing a 14-year-old to go back to live with him if she believes there's a problem there. And I think by 14, you should be able to know. Now, the other red flags, because I know that people always say, well, it's a custody dispute. They always lie about each other. Sometimes that happens. That's true. But in this case, the man is a convicted domestic abuser who was on probation, still on probation, for a domestic incident that resulted in his 19-year-old stepdaughter moving out of his house permanently. And so that's another young woman that has fled his company. And then he also took the 14-year-old to see his father, who's a level 3 sex offender, for a week, kept her at his house for a week.
Sorry, what does level 3 mean?
It's the highest level of sex offender you can be. His father was convicted of rape through fear.
Ugh.
So the details are not, I don't have the details of of the incident, but just the basic description sounds horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a level 3 sex offender, you have to register wherever you live. You're on the radar forever. And
Right.
obviously he can't be within a certain distance of children. And his son brought his granddaughter there for a week. So this is not a person who's making good decisions about child raising. The mother has
Right.
no criminal history until the judge threw her in jail for contempt. The judge threw her in jail that day, trying to intimidate the daughter into going back with the father like she ordered. And the daughter still refused, so she said, "We can do it the easy way or the hard way. The easy way is you go back. The hard way is that I put your mom in jail, and then you'll only have one parent to go back to." So the girl still refused, and the judge put her mother in jail, and she incarcerated the girl at the mental ward at the St. Louis Children's Hospital for
Wow.
like several, for like 2 weeks. Um, and while she was in the hospital, she disclosed the abuse to the doctors. They failed to make a mandated call. Like they're mandated reporters, they didn't report it. They believed the guardian ad litem, who was clearly working on behalf of the girl's father.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Venus Jackson, and she's part of this cabal of guardians ad litem that meet in secret on Zoom to discuss how to destroy parents who are complaining about them. And the guardians ad litem in this system, this opened up a whole other can of worms. So after this story went viral, and Judge Nicole Zellweger was under the microscope, she recused herself from the case. But that didn't stop the order from being carried out, which was to take the girl from the hospital and give her back to her father's custody. And now they've removed the mother's custody totally
Ugh.
for no reason. She has no right to call her daughter, talk to her daughter, nothing. She doesn't even know where she is. And because she sent the mother, her name is Angie Freener, she sent an email to the judge complaining about the judge's actions and saying that she would be held accountable for her conduct. She was then slapped with a felony, a Class D felony for so-called threatening a judge. And I read the email, and there's nothing threatening in it. I mean, there's no threat to violence, nothing like that. It's just, you did this bad thing, you had no right to do it, you shouldn't have done it, and now you're going to face consequences. And she meant legally, of course, because there are boards of oversight committees, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
that look at judges' conduct. And so now the judge has thrown her in jail on $75,000 no cash or cash only bail. So no 10%. She has to come up with $75,000 in cash to get out. Her bond hearing was rescheduled twice because judges keep recusing themselves from the case. She's lost her job. This mother has done nothing to anyone. All she did was try and stand up for her daughter and her daughter's rights to live where she feels most comfortable and not be with someone she says is abusing her.
Right.
And because of it, St. Louis County Court is destroying a mother's life. So do you want me to continue? There's more.
Oh, well, let's
It's
just, so I'm a St. Louis native. I know that there's at least two streams that have gunfire in the background somewhere, usually around New Year's. But this is absolutely, horrible. Like, this isn't something that, I was aware of, that other people were aware of, because even though, Missouri is a very cynical state. Our motto is a declaration: show me, show me the proof, show me this, show me that. But even then, like, somebody going, hey, I lived with a sex offender and he did things to me, and he took me to my, criminal, absolutely cannot be trusted under any circumstances with anyone under the age of 18, grandfather, and things
mm-hmm.
happened there too. I can't remember quite what you said with that one, but like that's not just somebody coming in. I had a one night stand and now I regret it. This is, hey, this is
Yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah, it's serious, and especially when we're talking about, the Me Too movement. I'm an expert on that. I wrote the book about believing evidence,
Mm-hmm.
which I thoroughly believe we should do. We should not just believe women for no reason. Um, but when do you believe a woman? Like
Right.
how much has to happen, especially a young child, a
Right.
14-year-old? I mean, what are the chances that a 14-year-old is consistently sticking with the story and refute, even in the face of her mother going to jail, won't refuse to deny it?
Right.
Um, it's a really difficult thing, and there was no investigation done, no police report filed, no one, and she disclosed to more people than the judge. She disclosed to her school counselor too.
Wow.
And the school counselor made a hotline call, and somehow that hotline call just got disappeared because no one's doing any investigating, or they just decided she's lying, and that's that. And I'm here's the thing, is that if it were just this one case, you'd be able to dismiss it and say, well, there's obviously more to it, and the judge knows more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I became privy to so many more cases in St. Louis family court with the same exact situations that it can't be coincidence anymore. There's a lawsuit that was filed at the same time this happened with Angie Freener. A lawsuit was filed by a woman named Evita Tolu.
Excuse
And
me. Yep.
Evita filed the lawsuit against her guardian ad litem, who was Elaine Pudlowski, a psychiatrist named James Reed, and another therapist named Jennifer Van Leuven. Now, these three characters are big time in the family court system. Elaine gets appointed to cases where children are accused one parent of abuse, and she's supposed to be the one looking out for the best interest of the child. She's an attorney, and she gets appointed to look after the child. But the
Right.
parents have to pay her exorbitant fees.
Ooh.
She charged Evita Tolu $30,000 for the pleasure of taking her sons away and alienating them from her completely. And what else she did, according to the lawsuit, is that she appointed James Reed to the case, who's the psychologist who was supposed to do some kind of evaluation for the family. And what he did was end up diagnosing Evita Tolu falsely with a very rare personality disorder called borderline personality disorder. Then they take the kids from her, saying she's crazy, and give them to the father who they accused of abuse, sexual abuse. I read the police report. It was horrifying. There was a police report about it.
Right.
And the child had been disclosing sexual abuse since he was 6 years old. Between the ages of 6 and 12, the same kid made multiple disclosures to teachers, police, anyone who would listen. There were hotline calls, and no one did a darn thing about it. And in fact, it appears that Elaine Pudlowski worked her butt off to make sure that the father got these kids. So after Evita's lawsuit was filed, and I reported that, I got hundreds of emails, hundreds, from people claiming the same thing with these same people. I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. He diagnosed me with narcissistic personality disorder. They took my kids and gave them to an abuser.
Right.
I've got an inbox full, and Michael Volpe's been interviewing people too. And in fact, tomorrow I'm doing a live stream on my YouTube channel with all the fathers who have gone through the same thing with these same people. Because it's not just women.
Right. Just a second. You have a YouTube channel? Could you grab me the link when you're ready?
Yeah, sure. And I don't use it very often, but when I do the live streams, I will use my YouTube channel. And it's probably going to be all loud for a second here. No, okay, good, it didn't. Because it's good. It's set to mute. Thank goodness. Here, I'll drop the link in the chat for you. But yeah, I'm going to do a live stream with the fathers who are affected by this, and I think we have at least 6 of them coming out who are going to talk about their experience with the same cabal of people. I wrote already 8 investigative pieces on this on pjmedia.com that you can go and read. If you look under columnists and you click on my name, you can see all the reporting from the St. Louis County scandal. There's 8 different articles already with several different cases of people telling the same story. Then we have the leaked Zoom call, which on my YouTube page, you can see me and Michael Volpe and Evita Tolu go over that Zoom call minute by minute to explain what's going on. And it was where 38 to 40 guardians ad litem in St. Louis County, including other attorneys who are currently representing people in the family court system, got together on a Zoom call to collude and conspire to try and tank Evita Tolu's lawsuit. And they even are on there being quoted saying, if she gets Elaine, we're all going down. You take one down, you take us all down. One of them even said, there's judges in on it. And we know that this is the case because Judge Burton, Michael Burton, sent an email, which I'm in possession of, and I printed it, an email to the guardian saying he would do everything he could to help the defendant in his court. The defendant being the guardian ad litem, Elaine Pudlowski. Now, a judge, and he's the presiding judge of the 21st Circuit Court, a judge cannot do that. He cannot try to actively help a defendant in his court. That's obstruction of justice. I think that Judge Michael Burton should be let out of the courthouse in handcuffs.
Absolutely.
But nothing's happened to him. Nothing has happened to him since I reported that. Not a darn thing, other than 31 judges recused themselves from Evita's case because they know they can't hear it because they're all, well, maybe not all, but a lot of them are implicated in it.
So I've heard a lot of rumors, some years back. Like this was before, Gamergate and Comicsgate and all these other like things started happening, before Trump, that there were a lot of kickbacks towards, judges and other, judicial figures in this system. Now, of course, I am not a lawyer. I barely have a grasp on history, and I've got some funny stories to tell about St. Louis politics. But it sounds to me like, why in the world would they pledge their lives and fortunes in such a public way? Well, I'm sure they didn't think of it as public ahead of time, but in such a way that could ruin their lives and legacies. Like, it's like if I started all of a sudden, instead of writing horror stories and science fiction, if I started writing pornographies and became a famous pornographer, like it's kind of like that kind of 180, or public image
Mm-hmm.
anyway. Um,
Yeah, they're very shameless. They do their deeds right out in the open, and they think that it will never be discovered because family courts are closed a lot of the time, sealed from the public, sealed from the press. And this is really the main crux of the issue, is that if you have to be so non-transparent, I know you're hiding something.
mhm.
You are hiding your wrongdoing. You're not protecting any privacy of the child. Consider this. Those 38 guardians who were on that Zoom call who proclaimed to be concerned about the privacy of children had no problem at all getting on a Zoom call with all those people and talking about other people's cases that they weren't involved in. They were talking about protected, confidential, privileged information on this Zoom call that they were all aware of. And they shouldn't be. If they're doing their jobs properly, they should not be speaking to one another about what cases they're on. But as
Right.
you can see very clearly in the Zoom call, they're all doing it. And they're having ex parte communications with judges about cases. And I have so many victims who have contacted me to say, I thought my own attorney was colluding with the guardian. I had that feeling. And then I saw him on your Zoom call. I saw them on the Zoom call. They were on there with the guardians doing exactly what I thought he was doing, conspiring against their own clients, conspiring with the therapists and the guardians to change custody from the parent that they are representing to the other parent.
The evil parent, more often than not.
Yeah, more often than not. And if people are asking themselves right now, why would they do that? I know that there are good people out there right now going, that doesn't make any sense. And that was me a couple weeks ago going, that doesn't make any darn sense. Why would anyone do that? And then it hit me. The more danger they can put the child in, the more leverage they have. That the other parent will drain every bank account, sell every asset, drain every retirement fund, empty the college funds to get that child back. And in every case that I've talked to, the people have been financially devastated. They lost, and these were professional people who had pretty good livings. I mean, houses, cars, you know, they had things. Some of them are lawyers, and their entire estates are completely drained. And they did that by dragging it out. The court professionals drag them through the family courts over years and years and years, instead of just coming down with the easy decision, which is, well, obviously, we're not going to put the kid with an abuser, put him with the protective mother. They don't do that because then it would go away and they would have no cash flow coming in. They put the kid with the one who has all the problems so that the other parent will fight and fight and fight and fight. And this goes on for years and years and years
Mm-hmm.
until the parent is totally broke and they can't pay another dime. And then guess what happens? Suddenly it goes away.
Yep.
Suddenly there's no more court action. I have seen this pattern now over and over and over and over again. I have so many victims, I can't write that many articles about them. That's how many I have. At this point, I'm really hoping for an enterprising U.S. attorney who will see this for what it is: racketeering and RICO, extortion, probably bribery. I believe there's bribery involved, but
Right.
I don't quite have that evidence yet.
We
But I
cannot
believe that,
say bribery without risking a libel suit. Is
yeah,
that
well, I say I believe it's probably happening. I can't say
okay?
that it is, and I'm not going to name anybody I think is doing it.
Right. Right. I dig it.
But I believe that that's going to end up coming out. But what I do think we can I think what 6 people are alleging right now, I think they have claims that would rise to a RICO level. Um, Michael Volpe's written a terrific article about why this family court situation is a RICO criminal enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a fantastic article. He writes at theprovocateur.com. And you know, it's incredibly disheartening. But what's amazing though, Ben, is that I'm getting emails from across the country from people saying, I was reading your article with tears falling down my face because this happened to me too, and it happened in a different state with the same type of players but different names.
Mm.
And I have seen it happen in Colorado myself to a woman that I was trying to help a couple of years ago. Same thing, psychologist hired by the county tries to diagnose her with some random, rare thing like Munchausen syndrome by proxy to
Oh.
remove the child, drag her through court. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is so rare and so hard to diagnose too. That you can't just, some quack can't see you for an hour and be like, oh yeah, she's got Munchausen's. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very in-depth diagnosis. Same with borderline personality disorder. A lot of times people with PTSD, which they got from the court system, by the way, PTSD can be mistaken for borderline personality disorder.
Right.
Um, and you need a qualified person and lots of therapy to figure it out. One test isn't going to do it. And so this guy, James Reed, is handing out this test. It's like a 500 question test to women. And when he runs this test through whatever, system he has, he says it comes up with borderline personality disorder. But a bunch of these women have gone and been tested by other people, and their results are perfectly mentally healthy. So you have to start asking yourself, what is James Reed doing? Why are all the women who he is assigned to in the St. Louis County Court, why do they all have BPD? Is that even statistically possible that every woman who goes to James Reed has BPD through St. Louis Family Court?
And they're not millennials either.
No.
I mean, I've dated a girl, who had, PTSD and stuff like that from some horrible boyfriends and the usual story. And it's like, sometimes she acted in a way that I would straight up call, BPD. Other times, it would, like in reflection, it was a symptom of the damage that she still wasn't over even years later, then it was, some sort of,
Right.
behavior problem. And, I
Right.
realized that when I started managing teenage girls, who, I loathe to this very day. Uh, but I kid. It was actually fun. But it's like I'm just sort of giving you the St. Louisans perspective. Like we understand that there is corruption in the system. There's been corruption in the system since before the Prohibition days. We had a gang called the Pillow Gang. Francis Slay regularly dined at Italian restaurants, and there was a table set out, for people who were merely his third cousins. And I worked at an Italian restaurant. We,
Mm.
and under Slay it was pretty good. The systems ran. He cared for the city, and he was a good citizen. One time a blizzard wiped out the town for a bit. We were under it for a week. The roads weren't cleared. They fired the guy who was a relative of somebody. The usual shtick, and they replaced him with his cousin, but his cousin got the job done. Like we understand that there is going to be corruption, but if the city don't work and we're suffering for it or whatever, that is unacceptable. And I'm just a city dweller. I'm not in the county. I haven't been through the courts. I've yet to actually sit on a jury duty, set. So I don't have that same perspective as what a suburban dweller might have. But this thing is shocking me because it's more than just your cousin Vinny got a plump job in waste management,
Right.
or
I kind of have made this same comparison to Chicago, because in Chicago it's the same way. Everybody knows you pay to play there. You know, you got to give $10,000 to whatever candidate if you want the contract for the flower thing at the down on Michigan Avenue.
Right,
Fine,
right.
fine. Everyone knows that's how it works. And like you said, as long as the garbage gets taken out and the streets are clean, like you're fine with it. Like that's a whole other realm I'm not interested in, and they can do what they want.
Right.
But when it comes to this exploitation of people's family trauma
Mm-hmm.
and children, and I mean, it's just, this is so unacceptable. This is not on a level of acceptable corruption. It's not the kind of corruption we normally just deal with
Right.
and turn a blind eye to. This is the kind of corruption that people have to go to jail for. And if people do not go to jail for this, I don't even know what to. We don't have a country anymore. We're living in a lawless society. If judges and lawyers and guardians ad litem can do this, and therapists can do this to people under the auspices of our government, of the judiciary. See, this is what makes it especially terrible. This is not just a private group of individuals ripping people off. This is
Mm-hmm.
being done possibly at the direction of not only just having the permission to, but maybe even the direction of the judiciary. This is terrible. Like it's got to stop. And the judiciary is not interested in fixing it. They're interested in sending threatening emails to my editor telling them to take down our reporting because I'm in violation, supposedly, of their Missouri code, a civil code, which carries with it a fine. And let me tell you something, I'll pay that fine all day long, but I will never take down a video of a whistleblower, a little girl, telling a judge that she's being molested. I will not do that. I don't care what
Right.
code it breaks. I will never take it down. She's a whistleblower. She's protected under whistleblower laws. And there's something rotten in the St. Louis judiciary, and they need to clean it up. Right now, all they're doing is covering it up and trying to shoot the messenger and writing, they're writing motions in court now about me and about PJ Media, which is incredible to me. Instead of just being like, hold on here, if this is happening in our judiciary, we need an internal investigation right now and being upstanding about it, they're hiding and they're covering
Mm-hmm.
up and they're intimidating. They're trying to intimidate people. Throwing Angela Freener in jail, by the way, throwing her in jail for so-called threatening a judge, all that was a message to every other whistleblower out there. You speak out, you talk to this girl at PJ Media, we will destroy you.
Yep. And it's interesting because it's like, I've worked in Italian restaurants. I know how things get done and get made. You know, and it's like this is bad soccer. This is bad tennis. What there's a phrase. It's like this is bad something. I can't quite remember the phrase, and it's like, you know, whatever goes on, you know, there was always class. Like St. Louis is this giant hub of corruption. We've
Mm-hmm.
got biker gangs who use St. Louis as an explicit neutral ground. They don't fight in our city, and they do all kinds of stuff with the barges. You can imagine it. We crack down on human trafficking, so it's not as bad as everyone's probably expecting. But a lot of drugs go through here. A lot of arcane and illegal stuff go through here, and it's like there's always been a separation between the normal people and all the corruption. Sure, you might see a biker at, your local QT, but it's polite and friendly and smiles all around, and you can get your picture with them to show you're a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not how it's supposed to function.
I know. And it's really sad when you talk to the people who've spent years and all their entire fortunes fighting the system. I've had floods of emails coming in and they keep on saying the same thing. I was crying reading your article. I've gotten at least 20 emails with that first sentence. I was crying reading your article because someone is finally talking about what's happening in family court. It's amazing to me, and I think that we should all take that as a lesson to not ignore people who are telling you stories about this kind of thing and think, well, it's just because they hate their ex. Because that's really what you're running into is people don't want to listen to the story because as soon as you say it was a custody battle, everybody shuts their ears. They don't want to hear it because they know that it's going to be full of drama and complications and family personal stuff that they don't want to know about.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives these people cover to do whatever they want in those courts. because anyone who's had their child taken, for instance, many of the fathers I talked to got their full custody taken away. They had full custody, got it taken away and put on supervised visits only for twice a month. This is several men I have talked to now. Got put on supervised visits twice a month. How do you think they want to tell people about that when they weren't accused of doing anything wrong? But if they tell people that they lost their kid and now they only can see them on supervised visits, what are their friends and family going to think?
It's
They're going to think they did something wrong,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
No one is going to believe one person, right, who's saying I was wronged so horrifically. Everyone thinks, well, if CPS is in your life, if a judge is ordering you away from your kids, there's something wrong with you. That's what people think. But the truth is, it's not that. There could be nothing wrong with you. You could really just be a pawn in a scheme to rob people blind, to traffic children through the court system for money. You want to talk about child trafficking? Your biggest child trafficking network is the St. Louis County Family Courts. And it might be the family courts in all of Missouri, because I'm getting reports from St. Charles, Christian County, Jackson County, Jefferson County, Cass County. I can name, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting victims from all over Missouri. So the idea that this is somehow, that this is not happening, I think at this point is kind of moot because of the number of people stepping forward with the same names, the same complaints. Maybe a couple of them really are crazy. That's probably true. But all of them? No.
Right.
No way. No way. And this is what the people of St. Louis and all over this country, by the way, need to understand. The time for silence in the face of this kind of corruption is over. And I realize I'm still talking to people who don't want to come forward, who are too scared because of the culture of intimidation in St. Louis. But I just want to encourage you, now is the time, because the more of you that step forward and say this happened to me too, the harder it is for them to deny it.
Mm-hmm.
We need all of you to step forward to say who you are, and we need whistleblowers too. It's the whistleblowers inside the system who have been leaking the Zoom tape, leaking the court documents, leaking the audio. Those people are heroes in this situation. You know, everybody's coming to me like, you're a hero for telling the story. I'm like, no, that's not true. It's the people inside the court system right now who are feeding this information to the press, that are risking everything. And we have several of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need more. I want all of you whistleblowers to come out. I know that you're the attorneys in St. Louis County. There are a lot of good attorneys there who hate what's going on, and they've been witnessing it for a long time. I've talked to several of them who used to be in family court and had to leave because they couldn't take it anymore. It was so horrific. You people, you good attorneys, this whole thing hinges on you. Step forward. Go to Channel 4. Tell them your story. Tell them what these judges are doing to people. Tell them what the lawyers are doing to the people in family court. You know what's happening. I know what's happening. Just tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, they're just too scared. I mean, they're really, Ben, it's terrible. They come to me and they tell me, I can't speak out. I can't tell my name. I'll tell you everything I know, but I'm terrified. And they're terrified for their lives, not just their jobs.
Which is weird because it's like that's not the usual, play. It's like I said earlier. It's like the separation that was always kind of relied on by the rank and file city dwellers, is kind of broken down, and it's like here's why I'm doing this sort of thing, even though I literally live in this city. Do I think they'll come after me? No. I barely got four figures in my account. Like, there's nothing there for them to take. I don't own a house. I don't own a car. Congratulations, you're
Yeah.
beating on a poor guy, who's in between jobs, even then. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, of course, there's always what little will be taken from you still, but it's like, there's not much there
Yeah,
for
they
it.
do. They do still prey on the poor people, and what they do is
Mm-hmm.
they actually have a special guardian who does that. That's Venus
Ugh.
Jackson. Venus Jackson is the one who goes with the poor people, and she charges a lot less than Elaine Pudlowski, who charges very high amounts of money.
Of course.
Venus will only charge like $1,200 for her services to take your kids away.
Oh
Uh,
ho.
but she, but she is. It's interesting because she was recorded on that Zoom call saying, "I'm not worried about being sued because my clients don't have any money. They couldn't hire a lawyer to sue me." And she even says, "My clients complain all the time, but they don't have any money to sue."
Yep.
So you can do, if you're a poor person, they know they can do anything to you that they want to
Yep.
because there's no repercussion whatsoever. But you do this to the wrong person too many times, like Evita Tolu, who's also a lawyer, by the way. And she's going to make it her life's goal to destroy that nest of rattlesnakes. And I think they're going to regret doing what they did to her for a very long time.
One hopes. I know that
One
the
hopes.
one hopes, because it's like, if it's that deep, who knows what's on the table, you know?
I know, I've said the same thing. It's like, do I really think that justice will be served? I really hope so. And I'm
Absolutely.
hoping to get the attention, I'm hoping to get the attention of a U.S. attorney who will be serious about this and go after these people. But if that doesn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised. Am I going to be surprised if every one of these people walks? No, because that's how the elite are in this country. They can do whatever they want.
Hmm. There's sort of. I'm just sort of like, speak out there. Maybe there's somebody who's listening to it right now. This is my call to Jesus moment. I'm a good Protestant boy. I'm very familiar with these things. Some pastors will do it at the end of every sermon, even if it's a nice fluff piece about
Hmm.
not being a glutton or something. Uh, you know, Listen. When the Declaration of Independence was signed, something like a fourth of those people died and lost everything. Like,
Mm.
you know, there's a
Yep.
cost to speaking out. Like, I'm not going to say it's going to be, wow, it's going to be the
Right.
Marvel movie where everyone comes out a little busted up and maybe Cap's bleeding from the lip or something like that, but you did it. No, it's going to be dark and grim, and it's going to be a knife fight in the back of an alley, and it's going to be all these horrible things.
Yep.
But the thing is that your soul is worth it. If I today gave up Christ, gave up all the good things that I do, gave up doing this live stream, Pinkerton's Ghosts, which is incredibly pro-Christian, like all these things, and I gave it up to right evil and do evil and sort of join up with the forces of evil, my soul will not be untouched by this. But even if I just gave it all up and did nothing, my soul will still be untouched, not untouched by this because it's a sort of cowardice. I did not fight for either side. Guess what? I'm still going to go to hell. Not that I believe you can lose salvation. I want to make that clear. I'm still going to go to hell for that, for not choosing. Being the
Yeah.
centrist is like crapping your pants, and when both sides complain about the smell, you call them out for taking a side.
Hmm.
If you take a side, it will be good for the soul, and it will be something that could make you a hero. But at the same
Yep.
time,
Definitely.
you know,
Definitely.
but true heroes, the real heroes, are the ones who have things that could be sacrificed and are willing to lay it on the line. Me, like I said, I'm a poor boy in the middle of the city and I don't know nothing. So really, I'm not losing much. Oh no, maybe they'll send a police officer to check my plates, which are a couple months from going off. Oh, maybe a light bulb's out. Like I'm not worried about that stuff. And, I can promise you that if you do this thing, if you look at it and you're ready, you're going to tell your story. Or maybe you're going to, defend the weak. Maybe you're just tired of hearing about it and you want to get the job done. All those things are valid and it's all good for you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, and I do think that people are stepping forward. I've certainly heard from a lot of court professionals who want to speak out about it, but just can't go on the record. And one of them did. Mark Chase.
Oh,
He's a brave man. He's a attorney who's a eviction attorney, and he stepped forward to say, "I'll go on the record and I'll put my name out there to tell you what Judge Michael Burton's up to." And
amazing.
yeah, and I wrote a big article about that. Judge Michael Burton uh, put a kibosh on evictions, even beyond what the COVID, response was, and he won't hear any of these cases coming in front of him. And because of it, even the ones that are emergencies, like there was a fentanyl dealer in a building terrorizing the other people in the building
Mm-hmm.
and having this substance that is highly toxic. Like if you even get exposed to it, you can die. And we're talking about children are in the building and seniors are in the building. And so this
Mm-hmm.
building was being terrorized by these drug dealers that the police were very aware of that they were there because they'd already been arrested, but then they get let out on bail, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
they don't get evicted because they're waiting trial or whatever. Not like Angela Freener, who's going to sit in jail forever on 75,000 cash. If you're a fentanyl dealer, you can get out of St. Louis County Jail. Um, but Michael Burton wouldn't even hear the case um, in an emergency situation where these people were terrorizing their neighbors. In fact, one of them had been renting out a room in his elderly seniors' apartments next door to strangers. They were climbing in his window.
Duh.
So there was some serious problems going on there, and the judge wouldn't even hear it. I published his emails about it. He was so rude to the attorneys who were saying, you've made us wait an entire month. There are people at stake. Their lives are at stake. We need to do something about this. And he kept on denying it. It was just incredible. So finally, the local police took it into their own hands, and they went and served the eviction notice themselves. It was just, and then the guys left.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it took was, putting the notice up, but the judge wouldn't give anybody permission to do it. It's stuff like that that, man, if a person is willing to look the other way when fentanyl dealers are terrorizing senior citizens, what else is he looking the other way on?
Absolutely. It's a whole bunch of things, and it's horrible to hear about it in my own city. Um, this is actually pretty close to the anniversary of when I lost one of my best friends to a fentanyl overdose. Uh, one of the other cooks sold him heroin, and it had fentanyl in it, and he chased the dragon. Um, didn't wake
I'm so
up,
sorry.
and it's like, yeah, it still kind of hurts because he was a good friend, but it's like, you know, they're defending scum.
Yeah,
Not even like the family courts are their own thing. I could see all the money, all the bribery that potentially could be earned by this in a non-legally binding sort of sense. Uh, but at the same time, these aren't like, well, he says he reformed. No, I sell drugs.
yeah,
My preoccupation is selling drugs, and I still pay taxes to the IRS because I don't want to mess with those guys. Ooh, like that's how obvious they are. Um, the police know about it, but oftentimes, even the new police guys who are, nice and still not quite, up on the life they're about to live, uh, are just shocked by what they.
yeah. It's no good. And St. Louis really is. I think you've got some operators in St. Louis County who have just been doing this for so long
Mm-hmm.
that they believed they could continue doing it, and they got sloppy.
Yeah.
And they just thought they'd never get caught. And I now that the names are out there, the victims are just flooding in. And I'm talking about victims from 10 years ago, too. I mean, this is spanning a very long time, I'm noticing. So the more and more victims come in, the more we're hearing about how long this has been going on and how the same players have been involved for decades. For instance, Bruce Hilton is a judge now, but he used to be an attorney. And I'm getting victims who are saying Bruce Hilton was my attorney back then, and he was working with, the guardian. And then I have another victim who had Bruce Hilton as a judge with that same guardian. Do you see how that works? And they're
Yep.
all in this incestuous pool of in crowd in the St. Louis County. And that's another thing. I guarantee you there are attorneys who are not in the in crowd. They don't play golf with judges. They don't socialize at the country club. And I bet they're very resentful that other attorneys in St. Louis County get preferential treatment because of the in club thing they're not a part of. That's what I'm hearing too. I'm hearing that there's a lot of in crowd and out crowd. And the out crowd's got to be getting pretty sick of this. Is what I'm thinking. And if you're one of those people and you're sick of the in crowd, just take them down already because they're on the edge of a very steep precipice.
Mm-hmm.
But Thanks a lot, Ben, for having me on to talk about it too. And I hope that your listeners will check out PJ Media for the reporting that I've done. There's an 8-part series. There's more coming. The live stream's going to be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on my YouTube channel, where the fathers are going to speak out for the first time about what's been done to them in the St. Louis County Court. And I really think that this is one of the most important stories, if not the most important story I've ever come across in my whole career.
Absolutely. And let's see. I'm just going to read out some comments real quick. The
Sure.
usual Arum, welcome. I don't think I remember you. It says this is so evil. Megabuster Shepard says call them out and resist urge to make angry monarchist noises. It is so much easier when you can actually point to and say, hey, he's a, I don't know, bourbon, lynch him or something. I don't know, as they did in the French Revolution.
Yeah.
And this is actually like similar thing. This is petite bourgeoisie,
Yes.
fermenting this stuff. And as much as I cringe to use Marxist rhetoric, uh, many times if they stray from God, they are a cancer and deserve all that they get. Bradford Walker says, um, let's see here. This is a hostile intelligence network in action. You're not going to take it down without forming one of your own. Absolutely. And there'll be people like me cheering him on, and again, if you're a lawyer and you know about this stuff, and even if you're
Yeah.
jealous of the power that they have, listen, as long as you defeat the current foe, nobody's gonna like worry about it too much. Just don't be the evil that you
Don't
picked
be
out.
so evil.
Right.
Right. You'll end up taking their place as the most powerful attorney in St. Louis County, and good for you. Use your power for good, though.
Right.
Don't use it for this nasty, disgusting evil. There's plenty of money to be made in the law where you do not have to shake down families for every red cent they have. Taking college educations from kids and then saying it was for the kids? What?
Absolutely. Bar One Studios, and we won't complain either. Like Bar One Studios says, resist urge to mask up in the night, go night riding on horseback. Night riding is a great Missouri tradition. Like I said, Missouri is the home of the bald knobber. We can always do it again. Absolutely.
I just read the story that was from a couple years ago that I can't believe I missed. Actually, it was just a couple of months ago. It was in July. And I'm going to not recall what state. But anyway, oh no, I do. It was Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And a Florida judge had let a child rapist go on bail. And the family was so upset, and no one understood why, all these new bail regulations. And this judge let this child rapist go who had raped an 8-year-old.
Ugh.
And yeah, and right after that, the guy got out on bail. It was a day or so later. The judge found his headless body on his doorstep, and they still haven't arrested anybody for that. They don't know who did it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not releasing the name of the judge because the judge feels threatened, of course.
Of
But
course.
there is a point to which you cannot push people any further. There is a point where people will not stand for it anymore, and I don't suggest going out and decapitating anyone. But I'm using it as an example to say, sometime, just if justice is not done for long enough, people start to take justice into their own hands, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
situation no one wants to see. That's a situation that is dangerous and is disturbing, but what are people supposed to do when their justice system has turned on them to such an extent that they can't even expect a judge to hold a child rapist in jail?
Absolutely. And it's like these little people, with their laws and stuff like that. The people
Yeah,
behind them won't protect them. Like it's like those
no.
kids who go out and riot on Soros's money. Soros just treats you like orcs, He just throw you out. And
Yeah,
sure, whatever money is being raised for whatever law is being applied, not much, you know, that's not him, except in the sense that it furthers his values.
yeah,
Um,
right.
it's Bradford Walker says if you're finding inexplicable institutional behavior of a hostile nature, there's an enemy intel agency behind the behavior. And Megbuster Shep says, "Believe me, in the Deep South, we know private justice." There's a good story about a man whose son, I believe, was raped by a man, and the guy got off because of a judge. Oh, it sounds like there's a pattern here. And
Yeah.
he actually, like, disguised himself, waited for the guy to pass by after the courthouse, and
I
shot
saw
him
that on
dead.
YouTube. I remember
Uh,
that.
that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, look, injustice happens. You know, I, we use the term social justice warrior to make fun of the left. The truth is, there's a lot of injustice out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe we should be fighting for justice. And there's a lot of people who are not getting justice, and in fact, victims who are being re victimized by our system. This is an unacceptable situation. It's just unacceptable. And I'm so tired of it. If they want Epstein to get off and, and all the people who were with him, we're not ever going to find out who they were or what little girls they were raping and what they were doing. If we're not ever going to know that, at least let us get justice on our level.
Yep.
If you're not going to put justice down on your level up there, you elites that run everything, at least let the people have justice, but we can't even have that on our level. It's incredible. They're just siding with the criminals constantly.
Yep. And it's there's the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. The joke in Pinkerton's Ghost is that the Illuminati is undivided evil if they could possibly work together. But the few times they actually do get their stuff together, it's always horror and evil. It's always this BS stuff that happens, and it's a terror, and it will take people being willing to say, all right, I guess we're going to have to be fined. I guess these laws will have to apply. um, but and part of it is that their master Satan, you know he's far cleverer than us. But at the same time, that pedophile went straight to hell with no chance of redemption, who got shot by the father. Even though justice was done, Satan still won a bit. Not that pedophiles really repent. It's a very rare and wonderful thing when they do. Um, it's
And we're living in this culture right now where
mm,
pedophilia is being, they're trying to sell it to us as a sexual orientation. And
mm-hmm.
these guardians ad litem are hell bent on making these children who went through trauma reunify with their abusers. And they're on tape saying things like, I don't know what happened. You weren't there. She says it happened. He says he didn't. It didn't happen. How am I supposed to know? What's important is that we get past the trauma and that she work past it. Well, and so you're in order to work past it, you're going to give her back to the guy that traumatized her in the first place? When that's exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
So I I don't know. It's so evil. It's hard to even comprehend. Ben, I hate to cut you short, but I have to go put my kids to bed for school tomorrow. Um,
This is
so,
this is more than enough, and I really thank you for giving us the information here. I might not be able to make the live stream with the dads, but I will certainly rewatch it on the other side. Um, the only time I get to play video games these days is when I'm doing audio editing or I'm
well, the
listening
good
to
news is
something.
it's going to be up forever. I'll never take it down, and anybody can watch it whenever they want to. So that'll be tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or after, if you want to watch the replay, it'll be there.
Absolutely. Do you have any final words for us before I let you go?
Again, I just want to make a plea to the whistleblowers inside the county court. If you are a whistleblower, if you're a judge, what would be great is if one of the family court judges who's not corrupt would come forward and say, I know this is happening, because I
Mm-hmm.
know it's happening. I know what's going on behind those closed doors. So if I could just encourage you to please do the right thing, stand up for families, stand up for children, come out, talk to PJ Media. We'll keep your identity, anonymous if that's what you need, or you can come out and we'll name you, because if you want to do that, that's great too. It's great to put your name behind it. So please contact me at pjmedia.com.
And even though I did say that, there's going to be real threat, at the same time, it's your soul, and the more people get together to fight, the better off they'll be.
Absolutely.
And even though, really we don't hope for justice in this world, but the afterwards, what we can do here is a reflection of our better natures of God Almighty, of Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
Megan, thank you so much for coming on with me for a very, personal interest sort of live stream. I'll probably stream for a bit longer and chat with people in our chat. And then indulge in some conspiracy theories only, unproven entirely.
My favorite
Uh,
kind.
exactly, and in no way legally binding to me or any other people acting upon this information. All right, because yeah, they'll accept that in court. Uh, Thank you so much, Megan. You have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
Mm-hmm. All right. That was a Skype one, and I think that went pretty well. Once we got in touch with each other, because Skype is not search friendly. My goodness. So let's see here. Bradford Walker says the people you see being openly hostile while on the bench are wearing a badge or an office. Assets of that network. Find the handlers and you start dealing with the problem. Sure. Like this is almost certainly part of the cabal. Supposedly, maybe. Uh, it's how do I want to put it? Like, so we know that there's a giant network protecting these people. And of course, these are just conspiracy theories that I'm vomiting out. Yes, I'm playing Valheim Mega Buster Shepherd. It's pretty good actually. Um, I'll show you what I'm building in a minute. While I'm talking about these things we already know, you know, who and what and all these other things that are sort of going on here, and it's more of a polite fiction than any sort of believable reality that we think. I'll wait for daylight. That we think there's anything different going on, like somebody saying, "Oh, it's just a conspiracy theory." Well, we know, what the islands are. We can point to them in a map. We know where this and that goes, and sure, like things like Q and stuff like that never really turned out the way we wanted it to. But honestly, hey, it probably wasn't it going to in the first place. Um, but not like in a, oh, I'm in despair sort of way. Just like, hey, things happened during the election and our boy didn't get it. Um, so that's just kind of how we're stuck being. How about that? I don't know what Q's up to these days. I don't care, honestly. I stopped caring after a while. So we know about the Cabal. We know about the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. We know what their connection is to Rome. We know what their connection is to some people in the Southern Baptist conventions and other places. And it's as much like a an organization of Satan, um, as it is, some sort of like CIA op. I bet the CIA is behind this to feed children to Moloch, or whatever Owen Benjamin would say. And I mean it only half joking. The only joke I use is the fact that I explicitly name Moloch, who I'm going to bring up as a villain in Pinkerton's Ghost eventually. That's a little spoiler there. Um, part even though Pinkerton's Ghost has no, is focused entirely on writing good horror stories. I want there to be things in there that you can say that is just like the secret tunnels in the Illuminati. That's just like the demonic possession that goes on. That's like the whispers of power and sex that they offer. You know, Megabuster Shepherd says, "Sure, thanks for the suggestions earlier. Was going to get some of them, but my Ethernet cable broke and I forgot to set up the Wi-Fi. LOL. Yeah, I miss Ethernet cables. I'm actually looking at my old college Wi-Fi router now. That was 10 years ago. Um, and it's I'm just a dude who's sitting in a house that I don't even own, with a car I don't really own, with a bank account that's slowly dwindling while I'm in between jobs because I got to move around for a bit in April. Then I'll be back and working again, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to leave the country for that. um, and I just see the things coming, and that's how it is. um, I can still point to it and say, hey, look, you know What about this stuff going on? St. Louis corruption runs deep, and it's run for the last 120 years. There was a big case in the 90s and 2000s where a lot of big names were kind of rounded up. But after that, they sort of went into, hey, but hey, I have a computer, which means I can write now. Absolutely. Uh, but that just sort of means they went into, how do I want to put it? They didn't really do much. They kind of just like, I don't know, like went quiet, and nobody really, like, I don't care. Like it's weird and it's horrible just to say it, but I don't care about the mob stuff. It's above my pay grade, and I've worked in a restaurant and I've done all this stuff, and it's like they're just looking to move some drugs or to do this or to do protection rackets. It's not literally rip children from their mother's arms and give them not to a not to a foster family that might be some religious crazies out in the boonies. All right, not so, like the Dr. Pepper agnostic family in South Park. Is it a Coke? Is it a Pepsi? Is it a Cola? Who knows? Who can know? But we drink Dr. Pepper in this house. Or was it Mr. Pibb? I can't remember. I think it was Dr. Pepper, and they worship this giant eagle god that killed Kenny in the last of it. They're giving it to sex offenders. People who they claim, screaming is he's gonna do it. He's gonna have all kinds of problems. Like it's horrible. It is horrible, and it's a cut above the usual horror. Um, let's see here. I'm trying to look up the mafia information I have. It's like what am I gonna do? I'm not smart enough to do with anything of that. Most of our mafia stuff came from Chicago, unfortunately, um, which is unfortunate. Who was it? I'm in the New York section, Midwest. So there's the Chicago outfit, which is Al Capone and stuff like that. And it kind of spread everywhere. Supposed to be destroyed in the 80s. A few different places. There's apparently a thing called the Civella? Apologies if I'm mispronouncing it. Which is like, the usual gambling rackets and stuff like that. Giordano is the St. Louis crime family, which was, I'm sorry, I said Chicago, I meant Kansas City. And it became a separate crime family in the 60s. And it's in decline since the 90s. Like, these people just run restaurants. And I'm sure they've got some illicit stuff going on. Biker gangs use St. Louis all the time. And they've got to pay their respects or, live in some sort of harmony with them. Like, I'm not going to name anyone because that'd be stupid. But I bet I could, see somebody's cousin about this stuff, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to touch this stuff. That's how you get your soul dirty. It's like magic. You take the first steps into it, and do more and more and more, and it gets horrible and more horrible and worse and worse and worse until finally, your soul's tainted and you're one of them, dead-eyed, and you have honestly no idea how you got there. Um, and then what happens? Not that I said earlier, you can't really lose your salvation or anything like that, but it's because I am a Protestant. But at the same time, if you live a life where it's like, dude, I cannot believe you were ever saved, you know, I think you're kind of in the wrong in a way, that you have the problems. I'm looking forward to whatever you're writing, by the way, Make a Buster Shepherd. Definitely check out Hotline Miami. That is probably my favorite, but it is a little too violent for me to put here. And also, for a lot of this stuff, I'm kind of just talking out of my butt, because what do I know? I might be completely wrong about everything. Uh, and that's perfectly fine too. I'm fine being wrong. Um, I'm not wrong about Satan's influence over the world and all this stuff, because that is a real thing. That is a real thing we have to worry about. But at least I'm not wrong about not selling kids into their sex offenders. Uh, yeah. Let's move on to a lighter topic. Talk about writing for a bit because I don't want to talk about this anymore. It's depressing. The things have already been said. What can I do? Lay out some sort of, like, I don't know, like, family tree for this stuff. What restaurants are at it? No, who cares? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. It's not going to lead to anything. Um, because honestly, I don't think this judge stuff is really related to the crime family stuff. Um, because it doesn't feel like it. It's too discivic. There's too much, like burning down your own seed crop for things to work out. Um, and honestly, like from everything I've seen, these guys are way more subtle than I ripped your child out of your arms. uh, anyway. Yeah. So right now, the things I'm really looking forward to is um, Bradford Walker's Star Knight Saga and John C. Wright's Star Quest. And I know Star Quest is like on book 2 or 3 or something like that, and he's trying to get them all out. I'm kind of scared that the zeitgeist is gone or is going, and I might just say to Jaji or something like, just talk to him about it. And I have an opportunity next week because as this like geek and gamers and stuff are disappearing. Not geeks and gamers. Hmm. Who's on? I need to talk to somebody. Oh wait, no, he's driving. Why did I type that? Anyway, let's see if Jason Rennie, or actually, let's see if my boy John De La Roz is around. Agent Dutch is back on Twitter. Who is Agent Dutch? The fandom menace. Thank you. Actually, if somebody in my chat knows more about it than I do, drop me a line on Twitter at Pinkerton's Ghosts, and we can chat about it. Just because it's something that I find interesting, or we can schedule something to talk about later. Uh, the entire circle with them, Doomcock, are passing their sell-by date. Yep. So like, there's something I've been thinking about recently. Like, it's the age of Jim Fear. Jim Fear. I've heard the name before, and he sounds important, and he sounds like he's on our side. I just can't remember too much about him. So like, there's a certain amount of time. Sure. I'll click follow. The certain amount of time that people are supposed to be relevant, and that's 5 years. I know Sargon of Akkad followed that. So did Davis MJ Arini, and kind of the anti-atheists, and the atheists also kind of followed that. They're down to sort of like the dregs, the true believers, ha ha ha, of their movement. And even stuff that should have gotten way more attention, like say 2 or 3 years ago, is just not anything anymore. Like where they were used to be getting hundreds of thousands or millions of views, they're barely getting, like 50,000 views. And that's like 50,000 of the same people all the time. The thing with like Doomcock and others, ooh, I'm carrying too much. What happened? Is that, like they had one trade. They had one idea, and that's, they wanted. Ooh, well, I'll say this: they wanted ethics in superhero movies. How about that? That's a tweet. Um, I'm putting that out there. The at fandom menace. Uh, he did a poll of Jim Fear 138. Sargon's kind of aware of that because while he has his own channel, he has Lotus Eaters, which he's doing way more to promote these days. Yes, Sargon of Akkad is pretty not top tier relevant, but he's pretty irrelevant. But like he's not like as irrelevant as he could have been compared to other people. Uh, I'm just gonna throw that out there just to mess with people, because there's no point in like doing all this stuff without messing with people. So, um, I should show you guys my house while I'm here. So I didn't build this. Like this building isn't mine, but I built this. It's amazing. So there's always going to be corruption in whatever goes on because we live in a fallen world. And we live in a fallen world. That's my bed chambers. It's very nice. This exhibit's going to be here any moment to pimp my ride or whatever. Um, this was really hard to build. I died so many times. And they sort of like take all this different stuff going on, and I hope you guys can see this because it's not showing up on my thing, and I have no idea. Let's turn this on. Sure, I'm fine with that. If Valheim's not going to do it, there we go. Sargon should have learned more about talking about history. Worth noting, oh yeah, we already did that. So Sargon of Akkad has survived like the collapse. That's what it's about. He survived the collapse and he survived it well, mostly by being an agent provocateur for a lot of stuff, and in general, kind of making a shitter of himself for a bit. Bar1 Studio says, I didn't realize Jim Fear was active like at all. It's not like I get a reply of him in Discord, and I'm no longer on Twitter, but follow me at Bar1 Scorpio on mine, Steven Art, and Fur Affinity. Fur Affinity. I'm just gonna kill myself. Just run for the window. I'm gonna self-delete here. I'm self-deleting. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that. I don't want my skills lowered even more. Like, who do you think I am? Yeah, absolutely. That just collapsed, and I don't know why. I think it's to do with smoke physics in this game. It's weird. I was tired of climbing up this mountain, so I built a giant house. So, with the fandom menace and all that jazz, like, they've hit their peak, and they hit it, like, months ago. And what was supposed to be their ultimate coup, yo, Ben, hey, Anthony, you can come back in if you want. We're done. We're just chatting at this point to fill out another half hour or so. Rick Farewell says, academic agent on the Ascendancy and has been pretty solid in the streaming. I caught his Thomas the Tank Engine live stream, and that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. It was absolutely hilarious. Start to finish in all the best ways. What's up, Anthony?
Yo, what's up?
Not much, just kind of like doing my thing, chatting. Megan Fox was on, which is really good. She's very professional, excellent. You see this? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Megan Fox, I know mostly by reputation. She's good. She's legit, I guess is the word.
Her Believe Evidence book is quite frankly excellent, a must read. It's maybe a little dated because it was mostly about the Kavanaugh stuff, I think, or yes, maybe Kavanaugh. Like I can't remember as well as I used to all the different things that are happening. Um, Academic Agent, like I said, was pretty great. Spicy for Affinity Art. Bar One Studios. Bar One Studios. Why? You see here, Mega Buster Chip says, "Hey Anthony, they're really just here for you. They're here for you, buddy. Look at this. Look at my house.
There we go.
All right, you know, and it's
going to say something and then I forgot. That's the type of content you come to me for.
I do. You know, and I'm just talking about the fandom menace and stuff like that. So, like, there's also a whole bunch of stuff that...
Yeah, I know nothing about them. I don't listen to them, and I don't know if this was the first I've heard of them, but I have never watched or listened to them at all. Frankly, I don't like Star Wars particularly a lot. I think that the first 3 movies are pretty good. That's
Next, you'll say the
like
Pope
the
isn't
extent
Catholic.
of my fandom. Yeah, well, that's the extent of my Star Wars fandom.
Yeah, it's fair.
The first 3 movies are pretty good. That's it. That's all I got for you. I watched a few episodes of Rebels, and occasionally Rebels would surprise me by being smarter than it should have been. Yeah, but it wasn't like a masterpiece or anything. The Mandalorian was precisely okay. Very specifically, it was an okay show. And some of the video games are good, I guess. I'll give them that. I like Jedi Starfighter. That was a fun game. I don't know. Mostly I'm just Star Wars out.
That's fine. Honestly, I haven't really been a big fan for a while. Longer than I should admit, really. Part of that was actually the expanded universe going to crap. And even though I know that Karen Travis is kind of like on our side politically, like she hangs out with Nick Cole and stuff like that, and she wrote a Galaxy's Edge book, I'm not a big fan of her. She introduced like gay characters into Star Wars, you know, and I don't know whether that was by whatever, but it's like it feels bad.
Most of the I don't know. Most of the modern fandom and that whole community of like critics and people. So we've discussed this in the past, but as far as like critics I watch and listen to, I tend to put them in tiers, and as the anime style tiering, because I realized long ago that number ratings are way too hard to quantify, in my opinion.
Yep.
So I was doing thumbs up, thumbs down for a while, but that lacks specificity, and anime tiering system actually makes the most sense to me for a variety of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, you know this, but for people who don't, the anime tiering system always starts with S at the top. I have no clue why. I don't know what started this, but this
Naruto.
is the same in... Was it Naruto that started this?
Yeah, buddy.
I don't know where... Yeah, I have no idea why they decided S was the top rank, but they did. Then A, B, C, D, F. Sometimes certain places will throw E in there, but most of the time they just go D to F, and that's what I use. So, in terms of the critic channels, yeah, there are really only, like, there are very few S-tier critic channels, as it should be, right? Because S-tier means that you are at the top of the top. Digibro was one of them once upon a time. Alexander is one. And Plinkett is one. And that might actually be it. As far as, like, the S, ER is very close. But the thing about ER is that his best stuff is S-tier. But I don't know if he's as consistent. Plinkett has very few duds. And I'm not talking Red Letter Media as a whole, which I don't find nearly as interesting. I mean specifically his Plinkett reviews are brilliant. So, not Red Letter Media as a whole, necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the S tier. Alexander, Digibro, Red Letter Media. The A tier, ER is like high A, bordering on S. His last Forcebender review is the best Last Jedi review on YouTube. It's absolutely hilarious.
Yep. So,
and
just saying comments real
Go ahead.
quick. Aaron VT says the tier system is actually way older than I thought. Decades, mid '80s at least. Which isn't. I'm not sure. Like what anime is being referenced on. Plinkett is certainly S tiers, as Bradford Walker says. Um,
Yep.
there are a few.
His it's true. His prequel trilogy review literally did basically shape how YouTube criticism, did its thing. Like it's honestly, it's one of the landmark video essays on YouTube.
Yep.
It's still a touchstone. I could rewatch those essays and get something new out of them every time. They're so good.
Yep. That's actually like something that's very important for the S tier stuff. It's almost like, its value comes from the always checking to see what resources I have.
Rewatchability.
From its rewatchability and the things that you can learn from it, because it's more than just
what they add to the discussion. That's my
Yep.
big thing. Like, I want to know, are you adding something to the discussion? Digibro consistently did. This is why, by the way, people like Digibro are S tier and people like Giguk are D tier maybe. No, I'll be nice since he tries to be a funny comedy man to mixed results. I'll give him C tier though.
Yeah,
But
Giguk.
a great example of this, Giguk, yeah. A great example of this was that they had a thing like, what was the golden age of anime? And Giguk made this absolute trash video that was just like, there is no golden age of anime, because the golden age of anime is whatever you want it to be.
This was
And
pre-2020, right?
I think so.
Right?
I could be wrong.
The worst year
So,
in anime.
This is, yeah. And it's whatever year you think is the best. Now, I'm going to take a moment here, even though you all know this, but to explain why that's such a completely useless video. What does that tell you? What does that add to the conversation? It adds nothing. Thank you. I already knew that the anime I liked were my favorite anime. That helped. So I don't know why you decided to make a video to explain that my favorite anime were the anime that I liked. And that made it my golden age.
Right.
It doesn't tell me anything about the field, the industry, but it's certainly technically true in a tautological way. So Digibro made a response video to it, and I always remember this because Digibro's response video was actually great. Because he said, Giguk made this video, and he goes, and I agree with his overall point that, the golden age of anime is different for everybody. However, that he also was like, that's really not that interesting of a question. We want to know what year in anime history was the most influential on the field and had the most considered classics and changed, and added to the industry. And then he came up with an actual year. Like he said, and that year was, and I forget exactly, sometime in the 80s.
Hold on.
1987 or something.
People are going to see my file explorer. So I've got the Digi Archive. Do you remember the name of the video?
I do not, I'm afraid.
Yes.
Just type in golden age, or, best year in anime history, golden age of anime, you'll probably find it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where it was fascinating to me because that was that's the difference between somebody who adds to the discussion and somebody who does not.
A thing. Tengen Topaguro.
Yep, I found it, by the way.
And at the same time, Extreme was part of why.
Did you? Yeah, there you go.
Their adaptation.
And
Studio Bones
there was a similar thing. Jeff
used
of
to be
Mother's Basement is another one that I would put even below Giguk for that matter. I would put him at D tier because
Who?
at least Giguk Mother's Basement.
Oh, yeah.
I'd probably put him at D tier. There are things he makes that I enjoy occasionally.
thing they did was
Like his
26 to
opening
50
and
episodes, no
analysis,
matter
his
what.
fight scene analysis, and he has a couple
Overall
of videos that I think are
consensus goes
okay.
down every
But
year.
most of his stuff is just
2007
so
is still the
generic and
high point
forgettable and
in
just not.
consensus
It doesn't add to
of
the discussion.
what was good.
And
like
another
what
great
year
thing
was
that he
great.
did that was a great point of comparison were his videos, and I've mentioned this before. They were his videos on what makes a adapter die, and he would go through different adaptations and go, this is what this changed and if they were good or not. Except that he wouldn't really come to a conclusion. He would end the video with something along the lines of it's up to you if you think it worked, but this is what they had to change to make it. Digibro does a video about what makes a good adaptation. Again, unfortunately, I can't remember the exact title, but it was specifically about the Viking show. What was it? What's that? What was that Viking show from last year called? Yes, thank you. Vinland Saga.
because we have great shows coming out, like, and that'll be the new best year of
Yes, and thank you,
animes.
Orm.
Have
Ben got it. It was Vinland Saga. The point is, though. Hold on. Yeah. So I think so. So to finish what I was gonna say though, Digibro does a video on Vinland Saga, but the video is really like a meditation on what makes a story worth adapting and a good adaptation. But the difference between again Digibro and the lesser people like Mother's Basement and Giguk is that Digibro's video he actually stakes a position. Says, do I think that Vinland Saga should have been adapted if this was the adaptation that we were going to get? And then he says, as it stands right now, my answer is no. I don't think that it's necessarily terrible, but I don't think it was worth adapting it if this was the adaptation that we get. Here is why. Here is what a good adaptation is, and then he goes through like piece by piece. You know, that whole thing. So, yeah, I would put him in the A tier. Yeah, he is. That's his big flaw. Sir, this is a Wendy's. That's just when you go like, you like fighting people. You just stare from one and go, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." No, even Digibro isn't normally like that. So for the one of us that you can't hear, it's almost certainly me.
It's no, it's me actually. I forgot to unmute myself. Hey, Cordell, you. Uh, no. Like it's me. So I'll recap real quick. Eye Patch Wolf is S tier for me, and he's even if he's a little effeminate, that sort of ruins his thing. But because he stakes out a narrative and he keeps with a narrative, he is much better than Giguk or Mother's Basement who try to keep it nebulous. When we release our Digibro videos,
Correct.
which we are going to do heavily, even though the zeitgeist will be lost a bit, which I'm probably you know gonna delay until after we're done with the season finale because that
Yeah.
is
Well, you know what? Part of it is I legitimately with the Digibro stuff, it's legitimately more of a labor of love than anything else because
yep.
I genuinely think that it's a damn shame what's happened with Digibro, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to lose when he was actually like good at his job.
Yep. And
Yeah.
it's
So it.
mm.
Go ahead.
and it's part of like the duty of artists to build on masterworks. There's no point in just if we since we have the power to write, there's no point in us just sitting around, Michelangelo's David's a great sculpture. Oh yeah, why? Eh. I like that from a certain angle his sling looks like a dick. There we go. How about that? That's highbrow enough for you, Anthony. That's highbrow.
That's gotta be. That's the quote that we put on our channel on YouTube when people want to know. Like should you subscribe to us, and we put that quote.
Oh yes, but
I like that David Sling looks like a dick.
So I'm actually very hungry right now, and I'm actually like crashing. But it's funny, like you can say things like
It is
that.
funny.
You can make these positions, and it's like there's no point in it. Like Brian Niemeyer, I love him to death, but I think he's got kind of an anti-intellectualist streak when it comes to outside the practical nature of things. Mankind cannot live on space marines punching aliens in the face forever. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to be entertained the first 100 times it happens, guaranteed every time. It doesn't matter if your aliens are like this or that.
Does he though?
So
I think what happened with Brian was more practical than that, because what he did, he had a super intellectual, ultra dense sci-fi, dark sci-fi book, Ethereal and Soul Dancer, in that series,
yep.
And it didn't really sell. And the big criticism of it was basically that it was so dense that it was only for a specific audience. And he started to sell when he wrote sci-fi space marine stuff.
Yes.
And then he just pointed out to everybody, if you want to sell, here you go. Nick Cole went through the exact same process, sadly enough.
Yep.
And it's just the reality of, capitalism, life, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
right? Criticize what you want to criticize, but
yeah.
They're both correct in essentials.
Oh.
Nick Cole's best stuff, his Wasteland saga, has not sold even though it did sell well, I'm pretty sure, just going by the number of reviews on Amazon, it did not sell nearly as well as Galaxy's Edge, which made him a borderline wealthy man.
Yep. Here's the thing. I want to be very clear. Whatever criticism I lob at a successful man's thing, I am not criticizing him for being successful. I want to make that very clear. They deserve all the success and the money they can earn. I just occasionally see Twitter fights and stuff like that where I want more from there's sort of like, if it's not accessible, well, it's true, if it's not accessible, how can I say this? Like when he and I have had a couple of, not like spats, but he says something, I say something counter to it, is that with the writing, it's supposed to be very to the point. Well, for sci-fi, thrillers, he's absolutely right. But at the same time, I'm writing horror. The horror lives and dies on its descriptions. On the practical effects. Not the CGI effects, the practical effects. CGI can just do whatever. Bradford Walker says the new Strange Fiction series, Cole and Ansbacher doing a rain shooting dragons in the face. I want to read it. I'm interested. I still buy their stuff. I've invested maybe $400 into Brian Niemeyer's Indiegogos. So maybe I'm an investor. How about that, Anthony? I'm part of his investment council. I've got a top hat and everything. And it's that's going to sell well. Also, probably not like Galaxy's Edge, but still. Oh yeah, I understand it's selling pretty well. All the Galaxy's Edge people are running for it. I haven't touched it yet just because I'm kind of out of buying for books. I'm listening to the Rachel Griffin series. I've got Adam Lane Smith's Write Like a Beast system and the business system that I have to look up. I got to do my taxes. And what else am I reading? I am reading through Strange Company by Nick Cole. Bradford Walker, he says the reason I think it'll do well is because the target audience is already primed due to Gate. Get out. You mentioned that crap anime in this house. Whip out the belt. Yes, the Japanese light novel series and the anime series. You remember the video about Gate, right? Anthony?
What, Gate? Yes.
Yes. Like, I still fight with people on how crap Gate is. Like, I was angry with Gate, like, back when it was released. Um, but it's like, people still like, yeah, it was a good anime. I'm like, the second you start thinking about it, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, well, the Japanese self-defense force. The self-defense force, you're telling me the Japanese self-defense force would murder like 100,000 people, and that those 100,000 people would be stupid enough to charge what is obviously a fortified emplacement without questioning it. Like, it is angering how bad the logic is. And people still defend it.
I've never heard anybody defend Gate.
People defend
I
it in
will
my
say
circles. You know what?
I always thought Gate was kind of the poster child of great concept, bad execution.
Okay, good. Bradford Walker says, I didn't say Gate was good. I won't say that. I say that the audience was primed. You're right. You're right. My bad. I got defensive all of a sudden. And I didn't have to be. Uh
Sure.
yes, yes. Um Actually someone was like A1 Pictures doesn't make all that bad anime. And I'm like, okay. So I sent a Facebook thing with like 100 anime on it. These are all bad anime. The author might be.
All right, but
Yeah, yeah.
A1 Pictures also specifically Silver Spoon is awesome.
Yeah, Silver Spoon's good.
The thing about A1 Pictures is not so much that they always make bad anime, as they have zero quality control and don't particularly care if it's bad or not.
Right.
Their goal is to make anime.
Right.
Anime that looks like anime. Whether it is good or bad is besides the point as compared to whether it gets done. So I love Magi. I think Magi's great.
Yep.
I love Silver Spoon. I think Silver Spoon is great. And I think that's about it from them, but they're also two of my favorite shows. So I think the thing to say about A1 Pictures... What was that?
Kaguya-sama. Love is War.
Oh, yes, thank you. Kaguya-sama's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, two of my favorite shows, and Kaguya-sama, which is certainly, on the list, it's good. So, I think that the thing with A1 Pictures is less that A1 Pictures is a bad studio that makes bad anime, so much as A1 Studio is an anime farm whose goal is to make anime based on popular properties as quickly as possible for as cheaply as possible, and whether it's good or bad is besides the point.
And I don't blame them their success, but I don't like it. I don't like them. I don't like what they do. I don't like their farming attitude. And maybe their money could probably tempt me into doing anything, and I'd probably agree to a Pinkerton's Ghost anime by A1 Pictures. But doesn't mean I have to be happy with them.
So whether or not their shows are good depends completely on if they happen to get a good team. The thing is that they don't care particularly about getting a good team. They care about getting a team that will do work.
The A team. Oh yeah, no, we just picked these guys up from a Home Depot outside of a
pretty much
a Japanese massage parlor.
So you've watched, of course, Digibro's whole thing on. This is, by the way, where I'm getting this information from. His whole thing on Asterisk War.
Yep, I remember it. Masterpiece.
That's basically what they did. Not everybody who worked on Asterisk War was bad at their job. Rather, when they picked up the team for Asterisk War, they were just hiring people who they knew made anime. You can animate things, right?
You draw.
You do this shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it.
So why was Magi good, and why was Kaguya-sama good, and why is Silver Spoon good? Well, Silver Spoon is a really weird example in that Silver Spoon actually is, like, extremely popular in Japan. but never really made it in the States, which is a shame.
Right.
The impression I get with Silver Spoon is that it's very much an anomaly. It's really, really nice to look at, though it doesn't have like great animation because it doesn't need to. It's not an action show. It's a slice of life. But the music is great, and the colors are really nice in it, and it's drawn very well. And I suspect that the reason for this, honestly, is that they didn't. It's a show that doesn't need that much effort put into it to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that they did go, in some ways, they went the extra mile because it has that great soundtrack. And it is so nice looking in and of itself. But I think it was like A1 Pictures just lucked out and got people who like the source material, is my guess. Like, the people who they hired happened to be people who were fans of Silver Spoon and wanted to do a good job with it. But the fact that that is the case and that is what happened was almost certainly coincidental.
Yeah. I
don't think that they were picking people who were passionate about Silver Spoon. They were picking animators. And Magi is another one. And I will also say, to be fair, that I'm pretty in the minority with Magi. I think Magi's great. I've publicly-ish disagreed with John C. Wright on this, and I've argued in favor of Magi before. I wrote multiple articles on Castalia House, mostly because I know that I'm in something of a minority opinion. Its reputation seems to be, along the lines of generic shonen, not that bad, not that great either. And I actually think that it has moments that are really, really good. So why is the Magi anime good? Well, I honestly, as far as an adaptation of the source material goes, there are moments that are better than others, and I'm not even sure if it is a great adaptation of the source material. If you talk to fans, for example, my two favorite arcs in the show, and are considered two of the best arcs in the series, the Balbad arc and the Magnestat arc, especially the Balbad arc, you'll often hear fans say that the manga did it better. Now, I had not read the manga, and I thought that the anime Balbad arc was fantastic. So, did the manga do it better? It's possible.
Yeah.
One A1 Pictures does do that, to be fair, a lot of anime do, which, what's the studio that did Kuroko no Basket? I something? Studio IG. Yeah. Studio IG, that was it. So, is that the anime actually looks very different from the manga. The character designs are sort of similar, but not that similar.
Mm-hmm.
Studio IG is notorious with this too, because A1 Pictures has a style, and everybody fits their style, and that's what they did with Magi. And Studio IG did this, their character Kuroko no Basket and their adaptation of Legend of the Galactic Heroes, Dainue Bisei. The character design philosophy for both shows is exactly the same, and it's kind of jarring. It's especially jarring to see how they turned Ruenthal into an effeminate girl. It was really weird.
That is weird.
It was a really weird design choice, because Ruenthal's supposed to be in like his 30s, and he just looks so strange in the Studio IG version. And I realized, that's what made me realize as I watched it, like, oh, the characters look like they're from Kuroko no Basket. And then I started reading the Kuroko no Basket manga, and I said, wait a minute, the characters in the manga don't really look like the characters in the show. Because Studio IG does not make characters that look like the mangas they're adapting. They turn them into Studio IG characters, no matter what it is. And I don't really like that design philosophy, or that, that character design philosophy, or that artistic philosophy. I understand why they do it, and it doesn't always make for a bad show. I mean, I think that Kuroko no Basket's great, and I don't even think Dainue Bisei is that bad, honestly. And I like Magi as well. However, I do think something is lost when you use the studio style as opposed to, the manga style. One of the reasons that My Hero Academia works so well in adaptation is that Horikoshi has a very unique style. That's sort of a combination of Western comics and, anime style. and
Right.
Studio Bones adapts it really, really well. It does not look like, generic Studio Bones show number 12. It looks like My Hero Academia. And the thing is that as good as an adaptation as the My Hero Academia anime is, and it is a very high quality adaptation, especially seasons 2 and 3, and certain fight scenes in season 4 and season 1. The manga, honestly, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, is probably even better just because Horikoshi is that good of an artist. I did
Yep.
not realize how good of an artist Horikoshi was till I started reading the manga regularly, and I realized that he was like probably the best artist in Shonen Jump, or at least like one of the top 3.
Oh yeah.
Black Clover is up there as well, I guess. Of currently working artists in Shonen Jump, Black Clover, admittedly, even though I don't really read it very much, he has great art. From the little bit I have read, I'll give him credit. Let's see. I don't think that the Bleach guy is currently working in Shonen Jump.
No.
He might be now.
Well, he had a
He just did.
series that.
Yeah, he had that short series, Burn the Witch, that they adapted.
Yep.
That's supposed to be pretty good, by the way, and maybe I'll try it one day.
I wasn't wowed.
Even though I never read Bleach. I've never read Bleach, but Burn the Witch had a good reputation.
Like it's I guess sort of my problem is that I sort of don't really care about mediocrity. Like I support Brian Niemeyer's Exceed so much because it's probably the best mecha novel I've ever read. Not that I've read every mecha novel, or anything dumb like that. It's just the one that appeals to me most and hits the most happy buttons in my little dopamine gluttonized head. And it's like with this anime stuff, I was like, it's like like whatever A1 Pictures is in reality, the artwork they put out isn't like. I don't enjoy it. I don't like most of the stuff that comes out. I never, even though I didn't really watch Kaguya-sama, it's like I don't.
Kaguya-sama is pretty good. Part of it too. That was one of the ones that I was actually surprised by Digibro's take because it felt to me like Digibro in his review. I mean, you're allowed to hold whatever opinion you want to have, but he semi-famously, that was one of his controversial negative reviews, and I think he missed the point of the show pretty thoroughly. I don't think it's a masterpiece by any means. In terms of anime rom-coms, Toradora still reigns supreme. And is better, but Kaguya-sama still makes me laugh sometimes. And honestly, I think that one of the things that Kaguya-sama is so good at is that it does take advantage of the fact that it's an anime, if that makes sense. For being a rom-com, for being just an adaptation of a rom-com that really doesn't need to go, to go over the top or anything like that. It seems like the people who were working on it put in the extra effort. Maybe because Kaguya-sama was technically the most popular romance anime in the world. In fact, I think it might still be. So possibly A1 Pictures knew that they, decided they were going to put in the extra effort to get it right. Or maybe it was a Silver Spoon type thing, which is what I suspect happened with them, which is that they just happened to get a team that liked working on it. Or maybe because Silver Spoon was a Hiromu Arakawa, creation, they did put in the extra effort with Silver Spoon. I don't know.
Bradford Walker says slice of life shows are not harmed by mediocre animation quality, and this is true.
I would say though that the animation Kaguya-sama is perfectly fine. You couldn't, I'll put it another way. I wouldn't call it mediocre only because there's not much you could do with with the animation to make it mediocre, if that makes sense. And they have that ending, the Chica dance ending, that's actually like brilliantly animated to a scary degree. The Chica dance, like the amount of effort they put into that ED is insane. Yeah, the more action-oriented the show is, the greater its dependence upon quality animation to succeed.
Yes.
I guess. Meanwhile, Ben is just in the comments describing JoJo Part 2.
Oh. You're right.
Dubstep, neon
Unfortunately,
pulse, and action lines. That's just battle tendency, and you know it.
I know. I was actually thinking of Asterisk War though. Now, I was only
I mean,
thinking
there's
of
nothing
Asterisk
wrong with
War.
that, but
Yes, but it's Aztec
I mean,
dubstep.
think about.
Aztec dubstep. Oh.
So, Cord Mitchell says he's watching Jujutsu Kaisen. I started watching it. I wasn't impressed, but everybody who I followed said, no, it actually gets way better. Keep going. Like, everybody who I trusted, Alexander, all of the people. And it did indeed get better, but I still haven't been following it just because there's like 5 or 6 different anime that are currently running right now that I'm interested in because the 2020, winter 2021 season is insane.
Yep. Skeleton surprise.
So
Yep.
Yeah, but Jujutsu Kaisen, though, when I did get back into it, I was like, no, actually, it is pretty good. Give it some credit. I really didn't like what they did, how they killed, quote-unquote, the main character, then brought him back to life. I thought it was really stupid. And I still do. I don't like that decision. But apparently, it's been better since that point, so...
Rattle me bones.
Yeah. What was that?
Nothing. I'm being attacked by skeletons.
Let's see. Every time I see action lines and recycled footage, I see custom measures put into place because reasons. Even the greats are vulnerable to that. Sometimes those reasons are valid, sometimes not. Yeah. Cord Mitchell says, I'm hoping Season 2 of Demon Slayer starts up again. Yes, and on that note, the movie will be coming out in theaters next month. And even more importantly than that, that movie is going to have an R rating, which I was actually excited to see. Opens up some possibilities for blood and guts and gore, and in a story like Demon Slayer, I am in like Flynn on that.
That's a lot of skeletons.
Should be fun.
That's way more skeletons than I thought. Alright, that's fair. I'm just gonna stay in my summer stone palace until it's over. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't really watched any movies in anime.
And the new season of My Hero Academia, which starts off with the Endeavor Agency arc, I believe, and or maybe Class 1A versus 1B. I think it might start with that. Who cares? Nobody cares about those arcs. I don't care about those arcs. They were fine when I read them, but I don't care about them. More importantly is that Season 5 is going to have My Villain Academia, which was, as the fans of My Hero Academia will all tell you, the point in the series where it took that step up into greatness.
Greatness.
I would say that that's at least close. At least close to it. My Villain Academia is awesome. It's probably the second best arc in the whole manga, to the War arc, with the Overhaul arc following very close behind. It's absolutely sensational. The only thing that I am really worried about with this is that they're working on another movie, which I was really disappointed to hear. Don't get me wrong, the last My Hero Academia movie, Heroes Rising, was actually great. Like, really fantastic. But it very obviously affected the quality of Season 4 in a big way. There were moments in Season 4 that were really iffy. And Season 4 mostly stuck the landing, and it had that fantastic Endeavor fight at the end of it. But there were parts that were kind of disappointing. That said, I'm really, really hoping that they put some effort into the My Villain Academia arc, because if they do, that could be some top-tier stuff right there. And also the fact that the manga today, Horikoshi looks like he's heading towards the end game in the series, which I'm excited about, and he shook things up in a big, big way. So big that I am not going to spoil it on air, but I'm going to say that Horikoshi just made a move in the manga that I did not think he would actually make. I didn't think he would go there, and he did it. And it's exciting.
I could say something. I could. I'm not going to post it, but I do have an opinion on it. And
Good or bad?
neutral actually. Um,
Neutral opinion.
neutral opinion. It's
I've posted the screenshot of that page in the Discord today with a spoiler.
yes, you did. It's actually a really cool image. Like it's legitimate. And by the way, you guys can read it for free on Shonen Jump. Manga Dex
Oh,
is
you
sadly
can.
down.
The latest chapter. Yeah, the latest chapter's out for free.
Yep. So I am done for the night. The heavy um the heavy fare of the beginning with Megan Fox talking about the corruption in St. Louis, a place near and dear to my heart, because I live in it. Um, technically, I'm in its heart. Uh, is a horrible thing,
Oh.
and it's it's not it's not acting in a way that it has acted in the past, and it's destroying things that previously weren't really touched like people might think it was, or at least as far as I know. And it's just a horrible sort of thing. And we've talked about anime for a bit, and me accusing people of anti-intellectualism, which is going to be my bread and butter for quite some time, I guess. We gotta stay ahead of these new trends, Anthony. We gotta fork the fandom menace as soon as we can. And I think it's there's a Gundam for all of us. There's the JoJo love pile. When I find the well that we are going to drain to the very dregs, and grift people of their money,
Well, I always
I'll
figured,
let you know.
what are the recurring themes of our show? JoJo, My Hero Academia, Digibro, and there was something else that we always kept coming back to. Oh yeah, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and how Reinhard von Lohengram did nothing wrong.
He did nothing wrong.
Nothing.
Nothing. Anyway, got any last words for us?
Don't do drugs, kids.
Actually, yes, that's a very good one. I agree with that one. Totally. All right, and thank you for listening. And if you have an opportunity to help out with the St. Louis stuff and the family courts, do take an opportunity, even if it seems pretty crazy. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Have a good one.